You did mention Alex Tuch in that conversation, and I think that was something that definitely picked up a lot of steam over the past few days. I think it was James Myrtle of The Athletic was just writing about. Was he writing about just potential extensions? Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe I think it was just like a recap of what had gone down at the combine. Anyways, Alex Tuch was a note in that article how teams were going to continue to call and the Sabres were going to start extension talks, or maybe they hadn't even started. Anyways, everybody sees Alex Tuch is next. He's got a 1-year deal left on his contract, $4.75 million per season. But on July 1st, he's eligible for an extension, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, hey, what's the plan here? There's no secret. He's 29 years old. He's teetering on that cliff. And I think we added some fuel to the fire because according to Evolving Hockey, his next deal is most likely to be, now these are based off of their contract projections, which are the best around. They nail these on a continual basis, but they get these spot on for the most part. And Alex Tuch's most likely extension number would be 8 years at $9.17 million per season. So we asked the question, and we talked amongst ourselves as well. But JP, 8 years, $9.17 million per season. Would you do that for Alex Tuch?
I think I voted no.
I believe you did. I believe you voted no.
That it's not the dollar amount that scares me. I think he's more than proven himself. It's just it's the term. Like, that would take him to his age 37 season. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we're exactly in the spot to be handing out a veteran who's soon to be a 30-year-old an 8-year deal. Because, like, in the back of my mind, in the very back of the mind, even though I don't want to think about this, if this season were to go to shit again, okay, and we have to go through another rebuild, we're not going to want an aging vet just sitting on our books. Like, I don't think we're in a spot to give him an 8-year deal. Like, ideally, I would probably max out at 5 years. Like, I would give him 5 by 9. Like, I'd do that all day. But I get from his spot, he's definitely going to want an 8-year deal. And I don't blame him. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't get paid and he shouldn't get the term, but I don't know if we're exactly in the spot to do that.
Well, I think you made a good clarification that for you it's the term. When I look at the money, it's not so high where I'm like, ew, absolutely not. We're not doing that deal. No chance. But it's also not like, okay, wow, that's a good deal. That's a steal. Let's do it. It's not either of those. So it kind of tells me that it's probably the right amount of money, or like right around, like, he's not getting lower than 8. It's not happening.
No.
Absolutely not. Not in a rising cap world. He's getting paid, especially considering the last 7 years of his career. He's been on the last 8 years of his career, he's been on a sweetheart deal. Which, side note, it's really frustrating at most. It's really frustrating that at most you're getting one season of getting value out of that, like good value out of that contract, like $4.75 million for Alex Tuch, and it really never really got to utilize it.
No, and that's why he's going to want to get paid even more here. Like, I don't think he's going to take a hometown discount to stay here on a team that's gone nowhere since he's been here. So you're going to have to pay up. And if if he wants to extend here, you're probably going to have to give him more than most of us would probably want.
Right. So $8 to $9 million, like that sounds about right. I think my cap is like 9.25. I feel like any higher than that, it's kind of getting like, all right, like let's be honest about what you really are here, Tuch. I mean, especially with if Tage Thompson's moving to the wing, which is a whole other conversation. You're on the second line, like you're a second line right winger, and I don't know if we can be paying you $9.5 million to be a second line right winger. But it's also important, for context. I'm looking at, for example, like Alexis Lafreniere, who makes $7.45 million per season. Just like what his like trajectory is with a 4% cap increase over the next few seasons. Like next season it's 6.9, then it's 6.3, then it's 5.8, 5.6, 5.3, 5.1, and then 4.9. So like it almost in today's, if Alex Tuch you went 8 years on, it's more than $3 million, or about $3 million less than what the dollar amount would be. So like by year 8, it would be like $6.5 million in today's money. Now, is Alex Tuch, when he's 37, is he going to be worth $6.5 million in today's money? I don't know about that. I'll shout out Jesse real quick, who commented under our post. He said, 35-year-old Alex Tuch making $9.17 million for another 2 seasons is nightmare fuel.
He's such a hater of him. He's going to be upset once the extension happens.
He will be. But yeah, the dollar amount, it's going to be in that range, $8 to $9 million, and maybe even above 9 a bit. I would hope that like it stays in that $8.5 million. I feel like 8.5 is like my sweet spot. Like that's like, okay, it's fair. You got your money. That feels like it's enough. And from Evolving Hockey, a 5-year projection, for example, that would be $9 million on the dot. Would you do a 5x9?
Oh, easily. I'd sign up for that right now.
All right. So I feel like if you could just, whittle that down a couple $100,000, but at the end of the day, if it's $500,000, is it really going to break your back that much? I don't know. With this team, maybe. Your spending is not exactly what you would want it to be. So
it's not like you're pushing against the cap, though. So
that is true.
I think what the more interesting part of this conversation is if he doesn't want to sign an extension with us, at least right now, like maybe, going into next offseason, he would consider it. But if he doesn't want to sign an extension right now because he wants to see how the year's going to play out, I wouldn't blame him. What do you do? Like if by the deadline it's not looking good, that if he doesn't sign an extension this offseason,
what is not looking good? What are we qualifying that as?
Fringe, like on the fringe of playoff team, or maybe not even in the race. Like I think if we don't sign him for an extension right this offseason, in the next month or two, the conversations are going to start happening about Tuch at the deadline.
Okay, let's say we wake up on deadline morning and you're 5 points out of a playoff spot. What do you do?
I mean, I think I would still keep him, but the value you could probably get for Tuch would be, I think, very large. I mean, he's clearly coveted around the league. There's teams calling about him, even when we've said he's not available. But it's will be an interesting conversation if it doesn't happen. If the extension doesn't happen, what would you do?
I guess it depends on like where. Like, do I still have a chance to sign him? Is he
Yeah.
like we'll talk in the off season? Because I feel like if they mess up the playoffs again, like I should say, if he goes into the season without a contract and they miss the playoffs again, I would assume he's gone. I would very much assume he's just if they wanted to sign, he would have done it by that point. There's nothing preventing the Sabres from meeting his money desire. So if it just didn't happen, he did not want it to happen. So 5 points. That would be a flip of a coin. I guess it's. I think it's funny. I think this goes into a conversation about like Jarmo Kekalainen, funny enough, because if we get off the Tuch conversation for a second, do we think I floated this? I don't know if I'd call it a theory, but it just does it feel like after hearing Kekalainen talk the other day and seeing him be very present, such as like him going to Bills camp, for example. I know it's dumb, but even something as small as that, does it sort of feel like this is like a really soft, dry run for him as general manager?
I honestly think so. I mean, there's already been rumors about Kevin moving up.
Well, that's my
moving up in the
point.
front
It's like
office.
we heard it might happen this offseason.
Yep.
Obviously, it didn't. And then from Yarmo's point of view, he wanted a GM job. Didn't get like he admitted this. He said it on Sabres Live. He had interviewed for LA. He'd interviewed for the Islanders. Obviously, he didn't get those, and then he pivoted to this job. Now, with him wanting a GM job and Adams possibly moving up to upper management, that's kind of where this stems from. I feel like if you read between the lines, for me at least, it sort of seems like we're moving in that direction. Like this is very much. I'm not saying Kekalainen has. He's not. It's not like he's acting GM, and it's just like they have different titles. I think what this more is like he said in that interview on Sabres Live, how like he had good conversations with Kevin Adams, respected him, yada yada yada, and then he even said like, "Oh, I've had great conversations with Terry Pagula," and it kind of makes you think like, "Oh, all right, he's kind of like wiping the floors. He's doing like the janitor work to kind of soak up to the upper management to get under their good side." And I feel like that's kind of what we're witnessing here. Like Kekalainen's getting acclimated. We're going to see how the next year goes, and then when next year comes, whether they have a great season, if they have a great season, okay, maybe it's a different conversation. But if they have a bad season and Kevin Adams is let go, which I don't think is going to happen. I still don't think it's going to happen. But if it does, they're going to keep Kekalainen. Like, he's the GM. And I feel like in that scenario, okay, you've done a lot of legwork the past year. You've gotten acclimated to the organization. You've gotten on the owner's good side. Here you go. And then even if they have a great year, I guess that's where this dry run stems from. Like maybe, like from my point of view, this season has become Adams does the legwork, gets a framework of a deal or an idea of a deal in place, and then Kekalainen, they go to him, ask for the final say, and then it's a done deal, and then at the end of the season you evaluate, was that a good move? Kekalainen signed off on it, so did it end up well? Did it work well? Is this going to be the fit for next year, for example? So, like, that's kind of how I feel about it right now. I don't know if you see it in a similar light.
No, I mean, I do, because they said how Jarmo is going to be involved in all the conversations. They're going to be using his connections around the league. I think there's already rumors coming out that he was talking to GMs at the Combine. So it only makes sense. And I think you're right about the Bills thing. Like him going there, I think that does mean something. I mean, every year, like last year, Kevin Adams and Lindy Ruff went to training camp, and Terry Bagula was there. Like the year before that, I think it was just Kevin and Donnie and Terry again. So I think it does mean something that they're parading him around. He's right by the GM side. I think it does mean something, and I think the other logical, internal front office staff who could have become the GM, like we talked about for at length this past year, was that Carmanos would probably make the most sense. But there's already rumors that he might not even be here. You know, this offseason, it's looking like he's going to stay, but there's already rumors thrown around that he might not be here for the long haul. So if it's not him and Kevin's not going to be here next year, Yarmo just makes all the sense in the world. And it gives them credibility, and they've been looking for that. So I think it'll also be interesting to see, once free agency's done, or even when the draft is done and Kevin is being interviewed by the press, it'll be interesting to see if he credits Yarmo, or if he talks about how he helped him in this process, or just how he's talked about in the media spotlight. I think that will be telling too.
So to bring this back to like the Tuch conversation, for example, if that's your thinking, do you set up Yarmo's tenure as GM in that scenario, or do you give it one last like this? Do you want Kevin Adams? If you're 5 points out of a playoff spot, do you want Kevin Adams potentially doing like a weird Botterill 2020 deadline ad where you're adding like Wayne Simmons and Dominic Cahoon, for example? Like, do you want Kevin Adams to have that kind of deadline, give the playoffs one last go, or do you wave the white flag with Tuch, get like a first round pick and like a really young NHL, like I don't know I'll just like I'll put Detroit back on the table. Like if it was like if it's a Marco Casper type player plus maybe a late first round pick, do you do that with Tuch? I mean, I think like a team that's been around him a ton, like obviously Tampa Bay comes to mind, but they don't have a lot of picks. I think of a team like LA. Like if LA comes to you and says, we'll trade you our first round pick this year and Brant Clark, do you trade Alex Tuch for that?
I don't know. It doesn't really move the needle for me. And I also think if you were to decide that trading Tuch, would be the best for the organization, I just wonder what that means for the other star players on our team, Tage and Donnelly. And it's like if you're moving Tuch, like that's pretty much waving the white flag. So what's the other fallout? Like I almost that's why when I first saw this conversation being had on Twitter and should we trade Tuch at the deadline if he's not going to sign an extension, it's like I would almost rather keep him till the end of the year, give it our last best shot with this core, and if it fails, then what the hell? We're gonna probably blow it up no matter what anyway. So I'd rather
True, but like you could have a young right-handed defenseman and another first round pick. So it just becomes like, do you get ahead of the curve? I mean, let's say I don't know. Let's say it's another disaster season like this one. Like, let's say the season's over in November again. Like, are you... I mean, I guess we said, like, 5 points out was the thing to do. Like, the 5 points out makes it difficult to decide. But I guess, like, if this season's done, like, if screw it, if they're in, like, the McKenna sweepstakes next year going into, like, February, maybe not in last place, maybe not even in the bottom 3, but if they're hovering around the bottom 5 like this year, do you wave the white flag on Tuch? Does that motivate you to do it?
It's a tough conversation. It's not an easy decision, and I really hope we don't get to that point. I I don't know what I would do, but I think if we don't sign that extension in the next month, conversations are going to be had this entire rest of the offseason and into next season if we don't start good. And I don't want those conversations to happen. I love Tuch, one of our better players, great culture guy, and one of the leaders of this team. And he's one of our core pieces. I don't want to be having this conversation, but knowing the Sabres track record, it's a conversation that has to be had.